want to get into blocking a little bit, and not being a catching guy, one of my favorite things to judge a guy on, and I almost look at it as a football guy. You got to love contact, because that's exactly what that is to me. But I'd like you guys to talk about blocking a little bit, but let's talk about it in the sense of in the bullpen, when nobody's watching, non-game day blocking. What are you guys going through there? Korey, you want to start us off with that?
Yeah. So, I can see kind of both kind of perspectives of it, and you hear all kinds of different things with a lot of that stuff. Catching's hard, and you want to if there's not any if it's not an important time to do it, then you don't need to do it. But I just for me, I think it just sets a tone. I think it sets a tone in the bullpen. I think it sets a tone in practice. I think even more so, you're developing a reaction to the pitch where your first instinct is to block, and with a ball in the dirt. And so, I think the more that you do it in a non-competitive setting, the more, you're going to be inclined to do it. And then it's just like with anything, it just gets easier and easier and easier, and you get used to the contact. And, for me, blocking in the bullpen before a game, blocking a bullpen during practice, blocking in a flat ground. Hopefully you're not doing that too much, but, I just think the more that you can do it, one, it sets a tone, and it's more of a mental thing. But two, you're just developing that skill to where it's kind of second nature to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I was when I was in college, I think I was a junior at the time. I was running to the bullpen from just to go off of what Korey said with your developing reaction. You get to a point where you're not thinking about it anymore. I ran to the bullpen. I threw my mask on. I had to warm up. I wasn't playing that day, and I had just gotten done BP, and I was running down to warm the guy up. And there was like a little league team standing by our bullpen watching the warm up, and I just had a mask on. Pitcher spikes a curveball, and I blocked it, and I picked it up, and I threw it back, and I'm not wearing any gear. And like the little kid, little guys are going, "You see that? Did you see that? He blocked that pitch. He's got no chest protector on. Like, what's he doing?" And it just becomes second nature. Like, you don't even think about it. I mean, when I play catch with our guys now, I just you put your body in front of it. And it's funny because I think I wasn't a great baseball player, but I could catch. And I was good at blocking because I was lazy. Like, I didn't want to get up and go chase the ball down at the backstop. I just didn't want to run. So I figured if I keep this thing in front of me, I'm not going anywhere.
Tim, sorry to cut you off, but that's false. I got to coach him and see him. He was a very good ball player. But the reason why he was great is because he was tough. He had a great energy and great work ethic. And, Tim and Korey come from the same mold. And I know, players out there listening right now have great energy, be tough, and you'll find a place in this game. And that's exactly who both of these guys are and who Tim was when I got to see him. Sorry, Tim, I had to interrupt you there. You're being a little too hot. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. But yeah, no, I mean, for us, the first thing in blocking we teach is anticipation. It takes, just like hitting, you anticipate a strike because it takes more energy to swing and less energy to take the pitch. So in blocking, it takes more energy to block the ball than it does to catch the pitch. So it's an attitude, yes, and it's also an anticipation of this ball's going in the dirt on every pitch, And I tell our guys, what are you going to block mostly? It's breaking balls or off-speed pitches. You hope that your pitchers aren't throwing fastballs in the dirt much, but it's going to happen. And those are the pitches you can't be surprised on because they're harder. They're going to beat you. So we anticipate with runners on base and 2 strikes on the hitter, our first thought is always, where is this going to go? We anticipate if it's a right-handed pitcher throwing an outside fastball to a righty, we're anticipating off our left foot. We're anticipating going that way. If it's and we'll get, if we want to get into this more down the line here, but depending on the breaking ball, we don't anticipate the backspin block. We just smother the ball, because I think you play, especially in high school, you play on so many different surfaces. In the big leagues, a nice flat surface that's hard, the ball's going to hit and bounce the other way. And then we play on some fields like that, and we play on some sandboxes where the ball hits and the spin doesn't catch and it keeps going. So we get as close to contact with the ground as we can and smother the ball. And then the depth of where the ball hits the ground determines how tall or how hunched over we are to the ball. So the reason I bring all that up is because when we anticipate, you're training, a lot of baseball is the mental game, like Korey said before, you're training your brain to react to the pitch. It's not just block or don't block. It's the depth of the ball, the height of my chest, which direction I'm going to go, how am I going to block this pitch. So when I'm in the bullpen and I've got a right-hander throwing an outside fastball, or I've got a left-hander throwing an outside fastball, I'm training myself to make a decision before the ball hits the ground as to what am I going to do here, because that's one aspect of baseball. It's a slow game. Everybody says how slow it is. That's fast. That happens so quickly that if you're thinking about it while it's happening, it's going by you. So I think that's huge, and the bullpen is anticipating and learning how to make decisions before the ball hits the dirt.
It's really awesome. Yeah. And I've been lucky to be around a lot of great catching guys, and two of them I'm talking to right now, and that's why I wanted to. But I want to give a shout out to a couple of those guys. My last catching guy was around Coach Tom Ryder, who's been around for many years. Worked very closely with Coach McDonald at Princeton many years ago, and a guy that Tim and I know very well that I used to coach with in high school is Johnny Monell Sr., who's a fantastic catching instructor, and his son ended up being a big league catcher, who's also a fantastic instructor. And the common theme that I see with all these guys who caught at a really high level and a really high level baseball instructors is, in my opinion, what I'm hearing from all of them, and it's nothing different. There's little things that are different here and there, but the one common thing that I hear from all of them is block everything. And every chance you get, and I would, to the young players out there, young coaches out there, make sure you're forcing that. And you look at the big league level, one of my favorite managers and guys in baseball now to listen to is Mike Matheny. And Mike Matheny was a fantastic catcher, and at the big league level, and a guy who played that well for that many years at that level, always blocked in between innings when the pitcher was warming up. And he talked a lot about that as just the right thing to do as a catcher. But number two is something that would give the pitcher some confidence in all of their stuff. So awesome there. Want to talk a little bit about setup and timing, just quickly. And we could be talking all day, so we may have to wrap up here in a little bit. But I did want to touch on setup and timing. So I don't know who wants to go first here on that, but somebody take it away.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, you're gonna have to hit that phone call out. Yeah. No. So I mean, I kind of see the foundation of everything we do as setup and timing. I think your stance, and I think Korey touched on this before. I think your stance and your positioning around the plate and in regards to the pitcher and what he's throwing, the plate itself, and where the hitter's standing in the box. I think all of that goes into how I position myself around the plate. That positioning and that stance, the ability to get in a good stance, is the building block for everything else that we do, receive, block, throw. So if you can do that, the other stuff, usually we teach that first, and the other stuff, if it's rough, it tends to kind of fall into place as you tweak that. So just basic stance, we have three of them. Quickly, without getting too much detail, it's signal stance, it's primary stance, and then block throw stance. I'm a guy that I was probably a little less flexible than I should have been, but I was in more of a secondary stance almost all the time, because right away I kind of learned that your secondary stance is not, but way up high in the air and tipped forward. It's your primary stance, just a little more loaded up and ready to go. So when we talk about the setup and the timing, we give our sign and, our pitcher gets the sign and he comes set, we're now loaded up, ready to move. We teach different ways to set up. We have one called a slide. We call it a hop. We have a two-step. And all of them, my favorite one is the slide. I think you can move late and you can get in a good position. I think I used a hop and all I'm talking about is how we move to either side of the plate or stay down the middle, depending on the pitch that we're throwing or what we're trying to do. The only reason I teach different ones is to have these guys get comfortable with what works for them. But it all has to happen late enough to not tip the location and in a way that doesn't tell you what direction you went. The good sign stealers are going to see where the lines are on the field and be able to tell which way you went. But if you do it late enough, and the pitcher has a big piece of this too. Some guys, you just need to set up earlier. They need to see you there. Some guys, it doesn't matter. They're throwing to a spot regardless of where you are behind the plate. And that's part of catching bullpens. You need to know that. You need to know who you're dealing with and where you need to go. I'd rather him hit his spot and the dugout know where it was going than him throw it down the middle because he needs to, needs to see me there. So we work on those different setups. A lot of our drill work, whether it's receiving, blocking, or throwing, we work from a signal stance to a setup and go from there. We work on a lot of movement stuff. So I think the timing of it is pitcher dependent, but on a general rule, he comes set and lifts his leg, I'm moving into my stance. I'm moving into my position. We talk a lot about depth. I like to be within arm's reach of the hitter's back knee. I think if you get too far back, and that's one of the first things that we do, because in high school, you get hit with that one swing and now you're scared to get too close. The only reason you got hit is because you extended your elbow when you weren't supposed to extend your elbow. You need to be close enough to keep the ball as close to the plate as you can. That's giving the umpire the best look at the ball. So I like to tell our guys, as a general rule of thumb, you should be able to touch the hitter's back knee with your glove. And that's how close you should be. And then we do some drill work where we'll throw a dotted line in front of them and, film from the side is my glove crossing that line when I go and receive the ball. So I think that's a tough habit to break, but I think that helps a lot. Positioning yourself, and we have a diagram that we go off of as the count and what pitches we're throwing based on the pitcher, the movement, and the count. Where are we setting up for this pitch? So there's going to be times that we split the outer third of the plate. There's times that we split the black of the plate. And then there's times that we split that area between the black and the batter's box. And we just throw our cup right on that spot. In our stance, we're slightly angled. I teach our guys to be with their right foot just off the instep of their left foot. So I have a slight angle. I think I'm not big on, you watch Yachty, and Yachty's Yachty. You can't teach what Yachty does. I think he's one of the best in the game, but he's got some ability. We watched that Michael Jordan thing last night. I'm sure everybody did. And
oh, yes.
You can't teach what Michael Jordan did, and you can't teach what Yachty did. I think they just have a different ability. But we do offset slightly just to clear our left knee and be able to give a target down the middle. We talk about balance, present a good target, and be efficient as our three kind of main goals of our stance. And I think presenting a good target is symmetrical. If you cut your body in half, sometimes we'll get catchers and a mobility issue or just a laziness kind of leans you one way or the other. And that's why my left knee hurts more than my right now, because I didn't figure that out until it was too late. But I think being able to give a symmetrical target to the pitcher is big in his vision of the plate. So when we talk about setting up, that timing of the leg lift, the move into our position, where are we moving to? Where does our cup go? What area are we splitting? And then how do we position ourselves around the plate to give our glove the best chance to catch the pitch correctly and our feet the best chance to clear the plate and get in a position to throw to second base? I tried to give you the Cliff Notes version, sorry, but that's
nope.
kind of
Awesome.
what I was looking for.
Awesome. Korey, I know I'm hearing a lot of the same things we do and little nuances here and there, but go ahead and kind of give your stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how much more I can add to that. It was, pretty good stuff. So, for me, it's we're talking about setup and everything, and I think that's Tim kind of hit on something that's pretty key, is that doing it when you're doing your drill work and working on that stuff constantly is just a way to try and find out what moves work for you and what moves don't. And sometimes it's a rhythm thing, and whether it be this guy's a hop guy or this guy's a right-left guy or a left-right guy or just a step-out guy. There's all kinds of different ways to do it, and I don't know that there's really one right type of way. It's really just dependent on that catcher and everything like that. In terms of setting up for different pitches, I think a lot of that again goes back to that relationship with the umpire. Some days you're going to have the ability to set up a little bit more off the plate, and then some days you might have to stay a little bit more on the plate. And then another aspect on top of that is what kind of pitcher you got out there, and if he's a guy that misses a lot on his spots, you're probably going to be setting up a little bit more over the plate. And if guys got a little bit more run on his fastball and needs a good visual target for over the heart of the plate, you're going to be right there. And some guys can just put it where they want it, and wherever they want it. So and that's kind of fun to catch because you can move a little bit. So I don't know that there's really a set way. I think more so teach what dictates a lot of that stuff, more so than this is the one right way and that's it. But just teach all kinds of the different methods, and then that way they have that toolbox that they can kind of go to, and if the situation calls for it, then they can go to it. But yeah, I mean, I think Tim kind of answered a lot of that stuff.
Awesome. So a little bit of a fun question here. We see the robo umpiring being playing out a little bit in the minor leagues, and there's a lot of talk about that. What do you guys? Let's say that in 2 years that robo umpiring becomes a thing in the big leagues. How do you see that affecting the position? What do you see some of the changes that are made?
Well, I know I'm out of a job if that happens, so that's how that'll affect me. So I don't know if I'm on board for it. But
yeah, I hate it.
It's funny. What does it even matter how you catch the ball at that point? I would guess it wouldn't. So this has really been awesome, guys. I appreciate you both. My suggestion out there to anybody listening, especially our players, is if you can get into a program that has great catching instruction and you're a catcher, or you can get into a program that just emphasizes proper catching, do it. Because I'm seeing less and less quality catching out there, and I think that's something that needs to get fixed pretty quickly in our game. And also, if I'm a pitcher, I'm going to want to find a place that has the same thing, because as I always say, our pitching has to be right. It has to be right. We've got to develop it, and we've got to recruit it. And if we do that really well and we don't do the catching end of it well, it really doesn't matter. So really, really appreciate both of you guys. Great to see you. Tim, congratulations on the job at Lafayette. As I said, they got an awesome one, and you guys are going to have great success in years to come. And just happy that I was able to speak with both of you. It was nice to have a baseball conversation.
Yeah.
I did some math homework with my daughter this morning, which God help her. But I didn't know anything you guys wanted to finish with.
No, I mean, thanks for this. Like you said, this was good to talk some baseball. Been having a lot of culture and budget meeting. So it was nice to talk about some catching. But no, thanks, Coach. Thanks, Core. It was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to mention this, Tim, but congrats on getting that job. And I know, from when we met at the coaching convention that it felt like this was going to be a pretty good talk. So I enjoyed it, and it gets a lot of thoughts out of my head that stay in my head. I kind of have conversations in my head about this. So maybe that goes back to the psycho thing about catching. But,
yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, man, I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot, and hopefully we'll get back out on the field soon.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.